Warm welcome to everybody to this international conference, conference on bioprospecting and the fifth international conference on bioenergy, environment and sustainable technologies. So I welcome all the participants and our chief guest, today's chief guest, Dr. Ashok Pandey, to this event. This I would like to move on to the welcome address. I am Praveen, the coordinator of this international conference on bioprospecting and the fifth international conference on bioenergy, environmental and sustainable technologies. So I would like to give a brief note about this, both the conferences. The fifth international conference on bioenergy, environmental and sustainable technologies, that is the best 2021. We used to organize this best conferences once in 2 years. We had started this event in the year 2013. During the first international conference, we had organized in the last week of January 2013. So during the conference, we had received enormous amount of response from the participants inside in Tamil Nadu, in India, and throughout the world. So it gives us energy to organize these conferences for in the consecutive years. After that, in 2015, 17, 19, we had organized next other versions of these best conferences, and from there now we are here. This year we are organizing the fifth international conference on bioenergy, environment and sustainable technologies. More to say about this best conference. All the versions of the conference were organized in association with the the Biotech Research Society of India and the International Bioprocess Forum. They are constantly giving us support by means of technical and technical expertise to our conferences. So all the guests who are attending our conferences, all the resource persons, invitees are life members and dignitaries in these both associations. That is the Biotech Society of India and International Bioprocess Forum. So for this, I would like to give my thanks to Dr. Ashok Pandey, who is the source behind this, who constantly support us to organize these kind of events. Thank you, sir. And regarding this international conference on bioprospecting, that is ICON Bio, this is the first session of this conference. This conference is sponsored by AICT India. So we are supposed to organize this conference in last year August, that is in 2019 August. Due to the pandemic situation arised, we had postponed this event to online mode. So we plan to organize this ICON Bio in collaboration with this Best 2021. So this is the history of this both conferences. Most of the participants asked why you organize this conference on same dates. So this is the history of the event. And for this year, we had received around 270 papers from around the world. Out of the 270 papers, we had selected 190 papers for presentations in various sessions. So these papers will be presented in today and tomorrow in 17 different sessions. So the conference schedule has been already shared to the participants, and we are having 11 lectures, 11 invited lectures throughout these 2 days. So all the lectures are given by experts in the field, and we are having 106 institutes participating in this event from around the world, and more than 401 registrations for papers. I mean, for 190 papers, we have received around 401 registration. 401 participants will be joining these events in these 2 days. Apart from the 11 lectures, we are having 17 invitees to chair the sessions, various sessions. We are planning to give 20 best paper awards out of these 190 presentations. I am sure that this event will be more successful. I request all the participants to support and be with us for these 2 days. And if you have any queries, you can call us anytime, and you can get your queries cleared. So with this short note, I would like to welcome Dr. Ashok Pandey, who is energetic and in fact, he is a retired person, but I will not believe always he is a retired person. He is a young fellow. He is the motivating force behind us. He will always motivate to do technical events and to share the technical knowledge to the students, student community. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining with us, sir. And I invite Dr. Ravichandran, principal of our college. He is constantly supporting us. I know him for the past 15 years. Whenever I approach him for any help, he immediately give his note to us, and he constantly supporting to organize this kind of events. Not only these conferences, he always take personal interest in our department events. That is. The Department of Biotechnology is doing more activities in our institute. He is regularly encouraging us to do some innovative activities. I welcome Dr. Ravichandran sir for this event. So with this short note, I would like to wind up my welcome address. Before winding up, I would like to welcome all the participants, resource persons, and our students and staffs of our college. I would like to give my profound thanks to my management of my institute, Dr. Vice Engineer Dr. Vice Chair, Engineer V. Kumar, and the Vice Chairman of our institute is a motivating force behind us. And I thank Dr. R. Satyasilan to joining with us for this welcome inaugural session. So, much to say. Another force behind this conference is AICT India, and this conference is in collaboration with Institute's Innovation Council of our institute. That is a autonomous body of MHRDCL. So these are the various institutes joining with us for this conference. I request all the participants to be with us for these 2 days, and we will have a good technical extravaganza for these 2 days. With this short note, I am winding up my welcome address. So I would like to hand over the session to Dr. R. Ravichandran to give his felicitation for this event. Sir, please, sir.
Yes. Thanks, Dr. Praveen. Esteemed Chief Guest, Dr. Ashok Pandey, Professor Praveen, the management, professors, dignitaries, authors, delegates, good morning. I am immensely delighted to know that the Biotechnology Department is organizing twin conferences. It is amazing to organize 2 different conferences on a single date, so that giving room for a large amount of authors and delegates in a single date. But the space is unlimited. It is infinite, so that we can accommodate any number of people. The bioprospecting, the one theme, icon bio. So the theme of this conference, I know that bioprospecting, also known as biodiversity prospecting, I think so. Is it right? Is the exploration of natural resources for small molecules, macromolecules, and biochemical and genetical information that could be developed into commercially viable products for the agriculture, aquaculture, bioremediation, cosmetics, nanotechnology, or pharmaceutical industries. In the pharmaceutical industry, for example, almost 1/3 of all small molecule drugs approved by the US Food and Drug Administration between 1981 to 2014 were either natural products or compounds derived from natural products. When a region's biological resources or indigenous knowledge are unethically appropriated or commercially exploited without providing fair compensation, this is known as biopiracy. Various international treaties have been negotiated to provide countries legal recourse in the event of biopiracy, and to offer commercial actors legal certainty for investment. These include the UN Convention on Biological Diversity and the Nagoya Protocol. Still, if the issues and problems are discussed and solutions are put forth in the same soil in which the indigenous knowledges were developed, then we will have a better edge in defending our products and services in a better way. Every thrust area in which many authors are about to present their papers has got its own significance internationally. I came to know that bioenergy, environment, ecology, waste treatment, nanotechnology, genetic life sciences, and much more are to be covered in this two-day conferences. The Department of Biotechnology of Aruna Engineering College is doing a great job in organizing these twin conferences, especially the best. The second one is the one which is organized biannually 14 years successfully. Icon Bio, the first one is the newly added platform, would also prove to be a grand success in upcoming year. I wish all the authors a great time. I feel proud with the Department of Biotechnology and its professors, Professor Praveen, Professor Palani, and many more. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving a wonderful felicitation to our conferences. I would like to welcome Dr. Ashok Pandey, sir, to release the conference proceedings.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you see it?
Yes, sir. We could be able to see, sir. Thank you, sir. Dear participants and presenters and invited speakers, this is our conference proceeding, wrapper of the conference proceedings. We will share the PDF of the conference proceedings later to your email. I thank Dr. Ashok Pandey, sir, to release this conference proceedings. So, thank you, sir. And as a next delegation, I request Dr. Ashok Pandey, sir, to deliver his presidential address and keynote lecture for this inauguration function of these conferences. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Praveen. Good morning to all the invitees and delegates, participants of this dual event, which is being organized by RUNAI. I do remember specifically the best, that is International Conference on Bioenergy, Environment and Sustainable Technologies, which was initiated in 2013 by Aruna Engineering College. Praveen has been the main force in the organization of this event, and considering its content, that is energy and environment in particular, with sustainability as the theme, I had great interest. This topics continue to be my main domain of research and technological activities now also. So I have seen this event, the platform growing up, and it has been always a pleasure to get associated with this event since last 8 years now. This is the 5th event in the series, and now we have Praveen and his colleagues in the college have added the 2nd event, that is bioprospecting, of course, which is of great relevance for us. So the theme of the event, both the event is of much value and importance for researchers, not only researchers, for the country as a whole. And when I say country as a whole, it also has global implications. Today, if you look at global scenario, the major emphasis is on energy and environment, because we know that sustainable life on this planet can be attained or retained when we have sustainability in energy and environment. So energy becomes the main theme, and if you look at how the energy is generated, how it is in use, how much is the demand, and then thereafter we also understand that what is the relevance of right type of energy or right sources of energy. And this is where the role of bioenergy or the concept of bioenergy has emerged in since last 30 years or so, and it is growing very rapidly. So if you look at the global scenario, coal continues to be the major source of energy, followed by natural gas. We have the statistics available global data till 2019 and estimates of 2020. But then if you look at International Energy Agency's data which deal with energy production, coal has been the major source, giving 38% of energy, followed by gas 23%, and hydro and other kind of energy provided 19%. Nuclear was 10%. Solar, photovoltaic and wind was 7%, and direct burning of oil led to 3% energy. So as you can see that in global scenario, bioenergy does not have any major share. Of course, it is clubbed together with hydro and other kind of hydro and other, which is 19%. But if you look Indian scenario, we know that coal continues to the major source of energy, that is accounting for 68% in 2020. That is the data estimate available which we have, and followed by we have renewable energy, alternative energy, whatever we say, that wind energy and solar energy and nuclear energy and so on. And but then coal continues to be the major source of energy. And if you look at the transport sector, then we have petroleum still continue to the major source of energy. India has a very ambitious solar energy program, and it is proposed that by 2030 we'll have 325 gigawatt electricity produced from solar. However, currently the production installed capacity is approximately 75 gigawatt, and actual production is close to 19 or 20 gigawatt. That means we are still not able to reach anywhere of 75. But of course, you know that the best efficiencies of solar panels is nowhere in the world recorded. I think more than 50 or 56% or so on. But still, we have to go long way. And biofuel, in global perspective, they are about 10%, but India, we are still lagging behind much on biofuel when we talk of bioenergy in particular. So this is where the focus has gone much. Government of India and different state government and the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Sources, Ministry of Petroleum, and the major two scientific departments, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology. These have a very ambitious program on biofuels, because considering the commitment of Government of India made under Sustainable Developmental Goals, and as one of the signatories of Paris Paris Convention on climate change, India is committed to reduce in 2030 the emission of greenhouse gases to an extent of 30% from the level of 2005. That is a very ambitious target. So there are many ways to fulfill this, but then the most practical and most approachable is to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases emission, that is particularly carbon dioxide, is through supplementation of biofuel in petroleum fuel, that is in petrol and diesel. Now we know that biodiesel is not feasible for the country, so then the whole onus comes on bioethanol. So there are very ambitious program with the blending currently targeted at 10%, but then actually we know that we have not been able to achieve more than 3.1% or 3.2%, although the initial statistics of 2020 which are available now, they indicate something around 5.2% or something like that. So still we are not able to reach 10%. The primary reason has been that non-availability of bioethanol and so on. So there are many reasons that techno-economical feasibility is one of the major reason. So technologically we are quite advanced today, but still not to a level which could be considered as a very green and sustainable process. But then it continues to go with the improvement, and then obviously today we understand much better in conversion of lignocellulosic biomass, for example, or algal biomass to biofuel or bioethanol more precisely. So bioethanol in particular is one of the major targeted product when you talk of bioenergy in Indian context. But we have great perspective. So linking this energy and environment together, that we know that this is of great relevance. Why? Because we are witnessing very serious impacts of climate change. We are also seeing loss of biodiversity, and due to overuse of natural resources, we are facing now, and not only environmental issues but also health issues. And these are ultimately, when you look at human growth and the human societies and development, we know that these issues, that is what we call climate change, loss of biodiversity and so on, they are directly and critically linked to issues of poverty and sustainability of ecosystem. And then consequently, the issues of resource security and political stability comes into picture. In fact, if you look at energy and environment, which is the main theme today we are discussing, again looking at sustainable technological solutions, then we have a few major issues, 4 or 5 to consider. The first one is, of course, biodiversity. We know that India is one of the hot biodiverse country, hot spot in terms of biodiversity, and but climate changes and other issues are damaging very heavily this biodiversity of the country. There are a lot of efforts, in particular through the mission mode projects of national governments, and also through sustained efforts of different ministries. There has been a huge difference in scenario in last few years, but then still we are far behind than what should be done to protect biodiversity. Now, in this regard, you have to keep in mind, for example, Western Ghats in Kerala are one of the most hot biodiverse points in the country, and so are the regions in northeast. But it is just not enough that we protect them, the biodiversity. The idea is that not only we protect them, but we also explore them and exploit them for human application, and that would be then sustainable, because anything which we see around and which could be of our use, we must use, but in a sustainable manner. So this is where we need to pay very strong attention on biodiversity. It's a sustainable exploration and exploitation. The next point in this regard is water, and we know that India is one of the worst water stressed countries. In fact, if you look at the 17 most stressed countries in the world which are water stressed, India ranks number 13 in the list. But then India alone, in terms of quantity, India alone is 3 times more than the remaining 16 countries together. That is the kind of water stress today we have. And in fact, this also is one of the major issues that changing climatic conditions are responsible for that. We all have been witnessing severe kind of impacts. We have seen terrible climate change and related with water. The heavy rains which had been there in a couple of years ago in Kerala in the month of August, what kind of havoc it has made. And if you look at last year's scenario, on 26 June 2019, Chennai city in Tamil Nadu had not any quantity of water left in its reservoir. The wells had dried, the ponds had dried, and reservoirs which had the source of drinking water supply to Chennai city and suburbs, they are completely dried. So there is a kind of water stress we have currently, which is increasing every day by day. If you have interest, if some of you have been reading, about the water stress and how it is changing in India, the three states rather, that is Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, partly at least Western Pradesh, which are the areas which are grain feeder for the country. And in fact, overall, there has been a huge change in these regions about the water. The water level in Punjab, for example, which was 20 feet or 15 feet 20 years ago, now it is 100 feet to 300 feet in many places. And it is because of what we call over exploitation of water. Punjab is not meant for cultivation of rice. Rice is cultivated in the eastern part or the southern part of the country where there are natural water resources in plenty. So, but then we have not been, heading, the conventional wisdom. We all not have been following what should be done in scientific manner. Green revolution was one of the best things to happen in independent India, but then the certain weak points which we had not known that time, that is over utilization of inorganic fertilizer and excessive utilization of water, exploitation, not utilization, excessive utilization, exploitation of water. These two had not been considered during those time, and we still do not pay attention. But then these two are the two very harmful factors which are damaging not only the productivity, but are some way or other responsible for changing climatic conditions in these regions. So I can keep on talking on to this one, but then considering the limited time, and I would like to also cover some other points. One of the major issues again is about the deforestation. We know that it is also linked directly with the climate change, and we have been indiscriminately removing the forest in different part of the country. And I would not like to talk about the negative issues, that is the political interventions and the bad politics and the criminalized politics and so on. But then deforestation has been one of the major again issues. And I have been living in Kerala, for example, for entire of my, not entire, or 30 years of my scientific career, and I had been witnessing at how the number of trees every day had been getting reduced in even in the city area, and in the other areas people had been removing the trees. For example, even to construct this one small house, 4 coconut trees had to be removed, and so on. And it is just it cannot be said or claimed that this has been one of the major reason, but definitely it has been one of the reason which has contributed for so damaging climate change in those part of the country. We had seen, I had again been witnessing that when in 1987, when I had reached in Kerala, it used to rain so many months and so often, but then the rains had shrunken to just 2 months during the regular monsoon, that was primarily June and July, and there are also changing pattern. So in environment, the deforestation is also responsible again for environmental changes. And to add on all that, we have been witnessing the climate change because of pollution. Most of the cities in India are heavily polluted. The air is not fit for breathing and so on. So we know that again most of our big cities, which includes worst is the Delhi and so on for that matter. Even Lucknow, the city where I am living, every day morning when I look at the air quality, and it is severe to very severe in terms of human health. And then we have other issues which are damaging environment. We know that we do not have a sustainable system. Forget about sustainable system. We do not have any proper solid waste management system. It is improving. The good thing is that there are good things happening in the country about the hygiene, about the cleanliness and so on. But then still we have to go long way. Air quality in the whole country or most of the part of country is, as I said, bad to very bad to severe to very severe. And we also know that the industrial effluent which come from different industries, leather industries, textile industries, food industry and so on, we do not have a proper treatment system. Not that there is no technology available, but the paper mill owner or the food industry owner and so on, perhaps they have not that kind of mental awareness and sense of responsibility which should be there in order to treat them. So a long way has to go on this aspect, because all it ultimately is impacting the human life. So bad environment, whether it is environment pollution due to solid waste, bad environment, whether it is due to industrial effluent, poor quality of drinking water and so on, or whether it is due to polluted air, all that again is impacting the human health. So even if you have good quality of food, if you do not have health, it has or it is of no use for the mankind. We all know that because of the environment, in particular the pollution in the air, and which is also including greenhouse gases emission, there is a global temperature rise. If you look at temperature rise, the data which are available, there has been from 1880, we have temperature data available for the global temperature in different places. So from 1880 to 1980, on average, there has been increase of 0.07 degrees Celsius per year. That means in 100, in one decade. That means in 10 decades, that is 100 year, the overall increase from 1880 to 1980 was 0.7 degrees Celsius. That is temperature in ocean water. However, from 1980 to 2020, for which data is available, the average increase was almost double. That is, in one decade, it was 0.13 degrees Celsius. So, which is very, very damaging, and the way it is increasing, it is very threatening, because there are details given that if ocean level rises to temperature rises to 1.5 degree from the level of 1880, it is suspected that approximately 30% land all over the world will submerge. And in fact, if you look at one of the most recent issues of National Geographic, it has shown that how it is going to impact the Indian subcontinent if the current trend of temperature rise continues till 2050. And you can see that a large part of areas in the eastern side as well as the western side, and going up to top till we reach Bay of Bengal up to top, and then Arabic Ocean up to top, crossing Gujarat, etc. It goes, large areas are submerged into water. That this map and its detail, you can read, those who are members of BRSI can read into the next April issue of BRSI newsletter with much more detail and elaboration. So from all this point of view, this kind of event which we are starting today have great relevance. We do not expect that by such event there are some expert would present papers, or participants, delegates will share their work, that there will be huge change in scenario, and we would be able to overcome these difficulties. But then, as I say, that it is an effort to educate the people, to make them understand, and then increase in scientific knowledge bit by bit. So when the experts from all over the country and also from international institutes attends this kind of event, there is impact. The important point, the bottom line is this, that who are the people who would want to be benefited, and then it is up to us that what message we take with us. So we educate ourselves, we try to understand ourselves, we try to change our mindset, and this is how then we, the participant, we would try to do it for our own colleagues, we would for our own people around, including those who are the stakeholders, for example, the industries and policymakers and so on. So all this, so this event, the best, as I said, that one way has always been contributing, because there has been large number of young researchers and students who participate in this, and I'm quite confident. And as I have the feedback from the last 4 events, that the young people always give the feedback, they have been greatly benefited by such events. So I would request all the participants to pay utmost attention to the presentations, to the lectures being delivered by the experts. All the experts are quite well known, have contributed immensely on the topic of their work, what they are presenting, and to try to understand, try to thereafter shoulder the responsibility as a sincere citizen of the country. I hope this event will be of quite value for the delegates, and again, as I said, that especially for the students. So with this, I would like to close my this presentation, and with my best wishes to organizers. And again, I would like to put on record the hard work put in very short time by Praveen Kumar and his team to make this event happen in a very nice and very big way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining with us for this inaugural session of the international conferences. It is our pleasure to have you with us on board during this inaugural event. Your speech regarding this theme of the conference is much interesting, and it is motivating to us. You are always behind us. You are for motivating us to do more technical activities. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining with us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye, everyone.
With this short note, we are winding up the inaugural session of the event, and directly we are moving to the next delegation of this event. The next session is invited lecture by Dr. P. Binod, the senior scientist in NIST. Is going to give a talk on microbial bioprospecting for high-value chemicals. So before moving to the lecture, I would like to brief something to the participants and to the guest. So we are having, as I said in the welcome address, we are having 11 lectures, including Dr. Pandey's keynote lecture throughout these 2 days. I had already shared the schedule of the event to you. Maybe all the participants are received in your WhatsApp and also in your email. So further communications we will be sending by email and through WhatsApp also. If there is any changes, we will intimate you immediately through WhatsApp. So I request all the participants to save our official WhatsApp number in your mobile phone, because we are sending the broadcast message in WhatsApp. We are not forming any WhatsApp groups because based on our previous experience, the WhatsApp group will create some disturbances to some participants. So we are not believing WhatsApp groups, and we are sending WhatsApp broadcasting message. In order to receive our broadcast message, you have to save our mobile number in your device. Our official mobile number has been given to you already. However, I am giving you now also. It is 94. It's 9488773165. I am also entering this number in the comment section. So I have posted the official WhatsApp number in the comment section. So as I said earlier, we are having another 10 invited lectures from now onwards. So I am briefing the session for your convenience now. Just a second. Just give me a second. Maybe my screen is visible to you right now. So this is the session schedule. You can able to see from now 10:30 to 11. We are running short of time now. we are having lecture 1 by Dr. Vinod, and following that we will start our presentations. We are having 4 parallel sessions. It will be happen in 4 different logins, 4 different Google Meets. So participants who are presenting the paper can go to the individual login. For example, if your paper is scheduled in the session 1A, you can click this 1A link and you can directly move on to that link and present your paper. The sessions 1 details of the participants' papers presented in 1A, 1B and 1C only are shared to your email and also your WhatsApp number by yesterday night itself. So you can check in which session your paper has been placed. So after that, we are breaking for lunch for 1 hour, and 2 to 2:30 p.m. we are having plenary lecture by Dr. Sunita Varjani. She is Pollution Control Board Officer, Scientific Officer in Pollution Control Board of Gujarat. So participants can join, and another thing I want to say, participants, all of you can join the invited lectures and plenary lectures through the YouTube link, because we, sir. Hey. So because we are giving the we are having we could able to host only 100 participants at a time in Google Meet. So all the sessions will not be Google Meet link will not be shared to everybody. However, the participants, the guests can access the Google Meet link. I had shared the Google Meet link for all the sessions to the guest, and the participant can join the invited lectures and plenary lectures through this YouTube live. If you have any doubts, you can input your doubts in the comment section of the YouTube link, so that the questions will be answered at the end of the program. And in the presentation sessions, that is in the parallel sessions, there are set of instruction to the participants. The participants have 8 minutes to present your paper. You can divide the 8 minutes. If two participants are going to present the paper, you can share your slides with them. And after your presentation, you have to give your name to the session coordinators, so that the session coordinators will take the note of your the persons who are presenting the paper, and the certificates will be given to only the presenters. And after that, from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. we are having session 2. That is, it is divided into 4 sessions: 2A, B, C, and D. And after that, 4:30 to 5, we are having invited lecture by Dr. Menaka. She is an entrepreneur, Chief Executive Officer, BioNeemTech of it is located in Chennai Taisal Park. And then 5 to 5:30 p.m. we are having invited lecture 3 by Dr. Sudhir P. Singh. And this we are winding up today's session and tomorrow's session. So this has been shared to your WhatsApp and email. You can go through it. And please, participants, please follow the instructions said by the session coordinator, so that we can have the fruitful sessions. With this short note, I would like to close this presentation, and I would like to hand over the session to Dr. P. Vinod, who is a senior scientist in microbial process and technology divisions of CSIR, National Institute of Interdisciplinary Science and Technology, located in Trivandrum, India. He obtained his PhD in biotechnology from the University of Kerala, Thiruvananthapuram. He had then worked as postdoctoral fellow at Korea Institute of Energy Research in Daejeon, South Korea, and later joined as a scientist at CSIR NIIST, Thiruvananthapuram. His research interest includes biomass to fuels and chemicals, biopolymers, and enzyme technology. He has more than 120 publications. He is a recipient of several awards and fellowships, including Young Scientist Award from National Forum on Industrial Bioprocesses, France, Kerala State Young Scientist Award from Kerala State Council for Science and Technology and Environment, Professor S.B. Chinkolkar Memorial Award of Biotech Research Society, India, Elsevier Impactful Research Award, Elsevier Renewable Energy Best Paper Award, Visiting Fellowship in EPFL Switzerland, Marie Curie Fellow, etc. He is a fellow of International Society of Energy Environmental Sustainability. He is a National Honorary Advisory Board member of Center for Energy and Environmental Sustainability India and the Central Office Executive of the Biotech Research Society of India. He is a long-time friend of me. I am being in touch with Dr. Vinod due to this my collaboration with the Biotech Research Society of India. This short note, I would like to welcome Dr. Vinod to deliver his invited lecture on microbial bioprospecting for for high value chemicals. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the session, sir.
Thank you, Professor Praveen. And I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
And just putting it in a full screen mode. Yeah. So at the outset, I would like to thank Professor Praveen and all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to deliver an invited lecture in this very important conference, internationally conference on bioprospecting and BEST 2021. So basically, I am from Kerala CSIR Institute, CSIR National Institute for Interdisciplinary Science and Technology, which is located in the south part of Kerala in Trivandrum. And today I will be talking about the microbial bioprospecting for the production of high-value chemicals. So as you know, bioprospecting is the exploitation of natural resources, especially biodiversity, for the human benefits or industrial or commercial applications. So this includes all the living organisms like plants, animals, and other biological resources. And today I will be talking about the bioprospecting in terms of microbial biodiversity. So this is actually a systematic and organized search for useful products derived from microbes that can be developed into further commercialization and overall benefit to the society. So if you see the process of bioprospecting, the first there are 4 phases. The first phase is actually on the on-site collection of microbial samples. And then on-site collection of the samples where we can isolate microbes. And the second phase is the isolation and characterization of these microbes. And the third phase includes the screening for these microbes for a particular use. And finally, the process and product development and its commercialization. So if you see the chemicals or the products for microbes, you can see n number of products can be produced from microbial resources. So this can be different, even culturable and even non-culturable microbes can be used for the bioprospecting. Even the non-culturable microbes can be utilized for isolation or extraction of their genetic material, and these genes can be expressed in different microorganisms, and these particular kinds of products can be produced. So the organism may be aerobic, anaerobic, or microaerobic. And here you can see these are some of the culturable microorganisms that can be used for the production of various chemicals. Microaerobic organisms include several E. coli and bacteria, like which can be used for the production of lactic acid, biopolymers like polyhydroxybutyrate, then glyceric acid, dihydroacetone, etc. And similarly, the several anaerobic organisms can be utilized for the production of butanol, even ethanol, 2,3-butanediol, and several yeast and filamentous can be produced used for the production of different acids like oxalic acid, citric acid, and other things. So in my today's lecture, I will be talking about a particular example on the production of a 2 compound, especially one is the 1,3-propanediol through microbial route, and another is 2,5-furan dicarboxylic acids. These two are one of the important chemicals that are having wide application in various industrial applications. So the first topic of discussion today I'm going to deliver here is the 1,3-propanediol, which is an industrially important biodiol with numerous applications. So one of the major application of this chemical is in the production of polytrimethylene terephthalate. And it is also used for the production of other polymers, cosmetic, food, lubricants, and etc. Actually, this 1,3-propanediol was first identified in 1881 and using a Clostridium strain. And after that, several research have been going on for the production of this 1,3-propanediol. So if you see the market potential of this chemical, it is attributed to have a growth potential in personal care, cosmetics, and cleaning product markets. And the economies such as India, China, and Brazil offers several growth opportunities. And polytrimethylene terephthalate and polyurethane applications are projected to have lucrative opportunities for these chemicals. And the main market drivers for this chemical is a high demand for environmental friendly and bio-based product. So this 1,3-propanediol can be produced both chemical method as well as biological method. So the study shows that the production process of bio-based propanediol produces 56% less greenhouse gas emission, and it consumes 42% less non-renewable energy than the petroleum-based or chemical-based propanediol. And this characteristic of biologically manufactured propanediol is the driving market growth opportunities. So if you see the major market players, earlier in 2015, there is only one company which is producing this 1,3-propanediol through biological method, is a DuPont. Now you can see in the last 5 years, there are several companies have started producing these chemicals. Especially, there are several Chinese players are producing these chemicals, and now the different other countries, European countries and other Asian countries, are also started producing this 1,3-propanediol through biological approach. So if you see the commercial production of 1,3-propanediol, as I said earlier, there are already a commercial production method of this 1,3-propanediol through chemical approach is already available. So there are two companies already commercialized this 1,3-propanediol through chemical approach. One is Degussa.
Sir, sorry for the list. The slides are not changed, sir. It is in the first slide itself.
Oh, is it not changing?
Yes, sir.
Is it changing now?
No, sir.
Okay,
maybe you can stop the presentation.
Okay, I will stop.
Yes, sir, it is changing right now. It is changing, sir. It is in the 1,3-propanediol slide.
Is it in full screen mode now?
No, sir.
Is it changing now?
No, sir.
Okay, then let me share once again. I will just stop it and share once again, because when I put it in the full screen mode, I think this is not sharing. One second.
Slide more, sir. Network problem.
Is it visible now?
Yes, it is visible, sir. It is in the full screen mode. And it is in the first
Is
slide.
it changing?
Yes,
It is changing now?
Yes.
Okay. So I am really sorry about it. I didn't know that the slides are not changing.
Yes.
So this was my first slides about the microbial bioprospecting, and these are the different chemicals I have mentioned in the production of these chemicals through microbial approaches. And I will be concentrating on the two chemicals, 1,3-propanediol and 2,5-furan dicarboxylic acid. So this is just an introductory slide about the 1,3-propanediol. And these are the market potential for this 1,3-propanediol that I already explained. And these are the several market players currently in the market for producing these chemicals. So now I reach this slide. So the commercial production of 1,3-propanediol actually started long back, and there are two companies, Degussa and Shell, has already commercialized this process for the production of 1,3-propanediol through chemical approach. So Degussa process, the acrolein is the major chemical raw material for the production of this 1,3-propanediol, and Shell process use ethylene oxide. And the major drawback of this chemical method is actually this is an energy intensive and requires expensive starting material and catalyst. So these are the major drawback of this chemical method of production. So people are looking on various other biological route for the production of 1,3-propanediol. DuPont and Glencore has developed a process for the production of 1,3-propanediol starting from glucose using a genetically modified organism, which is a E. coli, through a two-stage production process. So this process is actually commercially very viable, and now DuPont has already marketing this chemical through biological method, and there is a high demand for this biologically produced 1,3-propanediol. So main advantage of this 1,3-propanediol is the reduction in the greenhouse gas emission, as I mentioned here, the use of expensive chemicals and also the use of high toxic catalyst in the chemical method of production drives actually the environmental issues. So these environmental issues can be replaced by this biological method of production, and this is the green approach. And now this is the era of green chemistry, and in this era, this way of biologically production of 1,3-propanediol has a major significance. So in our institute, we are also developing a process for the 1,3-propanediol using microbial approaches, where we are using the lignocellulosic biomass as the starting material. And this, as you know, the lignocellulosic biomass is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. And this cellulose and hemicellulose can be utilized for the production of these chemicals. And we are looking for a biorefinery approach where the cellulose portion, especially the C6 sugars portion, can be utilized for the production of bioethanol, and the acid pretreated liquor, which contains C5 sugars, can be utilized for the production of 1,3-propanediol. So this sugar portion which we are using in the production of 1,3-propanediol is basically the for the generation of a microbial biomass, and then the crude glycerol, which is actually the glycerol, that is the byproduct generated from the biodiesel industry, is utilized for the production of 1,3-propanediol. Actually, this is a biotransformation process where the glycerol is converting into 1,3-propanediol through microbial approach. So the major difference between the DuPont process and the process what we are developing in our institute is that the DuPont uses the food material like a corn as a source for the production of 1,3-propanediol, but we are using the biodiesel industry generated glycerol for the production of these chemicals. So we have isolated a microorganisms, which is a Lactobacillus brevis, which can able to produce 1,3-propanediol initially in the level of almost 80 to 20 gram per liter. The main advantage of this organism is a non-pathogenic, autoflocculating, and a microaerobic. There are several other microorganisms are also reported for the production of 1,3-propanediol, especially the Clostridium and Clostridium especially. And the major problem associated with this Clostridium is these are all opportunistic pathogens, so it may not be much feasible for industrial use. But our organism, this Lactobacillus, is a food grade organism, which is actually a non-pathogenic. And in this work, we have developed both upstream operations and downstream operations for the production of this chemical. Coming to the bioprospecting approaches for this the production of this chemical, actually we did a soil enrichment technique for the isolating these microorganisms. As you know, the soil contains a rich biodiversity, which is having diversity of several microorganisms that can be utilized, that have the potential for the production of several chemicals. So in this approach, what we did is actually did a soil enrichment technique where we identified a waste dumping soil area, and we enriched the soil with the glycerol, and the glycerol enrichment of the soil made us to develop an organism which is able to utilize the glycerol, and that glycerol can be converted into 1,3-propanediol. So this is the approach. Initial the soil samples, after enrichment, we collected that soil and we made a serial dilution and a plating, and then finally isolated this organisms. So initial production level of 1,3-propanediol by this organism is almost 20 gram per liter, and then we did several optimization techniques like statistical optimization techniques like Plackett-Berman experimental optimization and RSM optimization to optimize the production process. And after optimization, we are able to get almost 56 to 60 gram per liter 1,3-propanediol. And another beauty of this process is that since this is a lactobacillus, this organism can able to produce other byproduct like lactic acid, which is also one of the high value chemicals, and another byproduct is acetic acid. So in a single fermentation process, we could able to generate 1,3-propanediol, lactic acid, and acetic acid. So this is a kind of a multi-product fermentation approach where we can utilize or we can generate different chemicals through a single fermentation approach. Once the upstream operations have optimized, another challenge is the downstream operations, because this after fermentation we are getting a multiple product. There occurs a challenge in separating these different chemicals. So we did several downstream operation approaches. Initially we tried with the recovery of 1,3-propanediol using different resins, but the recovery percentage was very less, nearly about 12 to 14%. So this was not a very good feasible approach. Then we tried to find another approach, that is the aqueous two-phase extraction process, where we could able to separate almost 90% of the 1,3-propanediol after fermentation. So once, so this is the plug different optimization approaches, and then once we optimize the upstream operations in the flask, we shifted this to the fermenter operations with a scale up of this process. Up to 20-liter scale we have developed this process. So this is about the downstream operations where we use aqueous two-phase extraction with the potassium dipotassium carbonate and dipotassium hydrogen phosphate as the salts for the aqueous two-phase extraction. And with this, we could able to recover almost 90 to 95% of 1,3-propanediol after from the fermented broth. So this is the final the process flow of production of 1,3-propanediol from the bio 1,3-propanediol. So starting from the raw material, the glycerol, which is fed into the reactor, and then after the fermentation, we extracted using the aqueous two-phase extraction process, and then after extraction, we just did a separation of this isopropanol, and the aqueous two-phase extraction, so salt and isopropanol are the main component. The isopropanol is separated, and the remaining liquid is transferred to the column, and finally we could able to get the pure 1,3-propanediol. So after fermentation, the fermented media contains a small amount of glucose which is unutilized, and lactic acid, acetic acid, and 1,3-propanediol as the major product. And final after the extraction, we could separate 1,3-propanediol from the fermented mixture. So with this bioprospecting approaches for the production of 1,3-propanediol, we did a SWOT analysis, that is a strength, weakness, and opportunity and threat in the process. So the major strength of the process is that we are using a wild type organism, which is not a genetically modified organism, and it is generally regarded as a safe organism. And we are able to generate other high value byproducts like lactic acid and acetic acid. And the opportunities are that this process is an environmental friendly process. We are not using any harsh chemicals, or we are not using any toxic catalyst. And the entire process is happening in a ambient temperature, and there is no use of any harsh reaction conditions are required. And another opportunity is that there is no player in India which is producing 1,3-propanediol through a biological approach. And the weakness is that since there is no players in India, we are finding a difficulty in finding an industrial partners, because if there is no established partners are available, we could not further scale up into on the commercial level. So that is the one weakness we are facing now. And another is the downstream processing, since this contains other byproduct, its separation of all the products in 100% purity or up to 99% purity is one of the difficult challenge which needs more engineering inputs. And the major threat is that the cheaper products from the foreign markets, especially if you see if you compare the production cost of this process and the production or the cost of the chemical available in other market, especially in the Chinese market, the product cost is very low in China if you import from China. So that is the major threat in this process. And another is the high capex drives away the startup, because there are several startups we have discussed with the several startups for this process. But even for the development of or establishment of this process by a startup, there involves a high capital investment. That is a major bottleneck in this process for the startups. And the lack of awareness about the benefit of a bio-1,3-propanediol, that is also one of the major threat. And there is no strict government regulations in India as for now for a biological production of this chemical, or the green chemistry approaches are not much government regulations are not now. So that is also the one of the threat in this area. So now I will come to the another chemical in the next 5 minutes about the 2,5-furan dicarboxylic acid, which is one of the furan derivatives, and it is having very high demand chemicals, having several applications. And one of the major, the US Department of Energy has made this chemical as one of the top 10 biochemicals that can be derived from the biological material. So this furan dicarboxylic acid has several applications. One of the major futuristic application is the production of polyethylene furanate, where the 2,5-furan dicarboxylic acid can be combined with ethylene glycol, and it can be used for the production of a biopolymer, polyethylene furanate, which is said to be replaced the polyethylene terephthalate, which is the PET bottle what we are using now. That can be replaced by this polyethylene furanate. In addition to this, FDCA is a platform chemical. Several other chemicals can be produced from this furan dicarboxylic acid, like succinic acid and furan dicarbaldehyde and several other chemicals. So these are some of the applications. It's a very stable compound with a very high melting point, and this can be replaced with a terephthalic acid. So the PET can be replaced with this FDCA derived PEF, polyethylene furanate, and it can be used for the synthesis of polyesters, production of nylon, and the preparation of different biological membranes and other things. So this is the polyethylene furanate, where FDCA can be combined with polyethylene glycol. Both these can be generated through biological approach, and we can produce a biopolymer, that is polyethylene furanate, which can replace PET. So here our approach is actually the production of furan dicarboxylic acid using either HMF, 5-hydroxymethylfurfural, or from fructose, or using a biomass. We can able to produce 2,5-furan dicarboxylic acids. So the production of these chemicals, here also we need to have a different screening approaches. Here we selected the area which is actually the Himalayan regions of Sikkim. So we isolated several soil samples from the Sikkim Himalayan region with different various altitudes, starting from 1,120 meters up to 3,000 meter altitude. We took the soil samples, and we screened all these soil samples for various microorganisms which can convert 5-hydroxymethylfurfural into 2,5-furan dicarboxylic acid, FDCA. So various screening approaches we have adopted for screening these microbes, and finally we could able to generate several microorganisms. One of them is Aspergillus flavus, which is a fungus which can able to convert HMF into furan dicarboxylic acids. So initially, once we optimize this process in the flask level using different statistical box Penguin design approaches, and we analyzed various different parameters like inoculum age and different fermentation parameters like carbon sources and nitrogen sources, and we analyzed a series of analysis in each day to see how this hydroxymethylfurfural is converting into FDCA, furan dicarboxylic acids. So these are the intermediate products involved in the conversion of HMF to FDCA, where this HMF is either converted into HMF alcohol or HMF acid or FFCA, and then furoic acid and FDCA. These are the different intermediate compounds we analyzed in the various production parameters approaches. And finally, we proposed a pathway for the production of FDCA from HMF. So in the literature, the proposed pathway is that HMF is converted to HMF alcohol, either convert to HMF alcohol or it can convert to HMF acid or DFF. And these HMF acid and DFF is converted into FFCA and FDCA. And in our approach in the Aspergillus organism, we found that this HMF is directly converted into HMF, either HMF alcohol or it can convert into HMF acid. And DFF is missing in our approach. HMF acid is converted into FFCA and then finally into FDCA. So we optimize all these production parameters and intermediate compound analysis in a very strict evaluation of each and every intermediate product in each and every time intervals. And finally, we could able to develop this process scale up in a fermenter with the production of almost 50 to 60% conversion efficiency. So this is just two examples which I wanted to highlight in this prestigious conference on Icon Bio, where there are a lot of opportunities for utilizing or exploiting these microbes for the production of various chemicals, which is having wide industrial applications. So these are the conclusion. So there is a development of a broad array of methodologies has profoundly altered the bioprospecting efforts, and there are a lot of properties of interest in the environment is to value addition steps where various applications can be developed which can have an application in human health and industry. And these microbes also provide a sustainable approach for the chemical production. But the more R&D is needed because high capital investment is the major bottleneck in the commercialization of several of these chemicals. And I hope in future, mainly in the next 5 to 10 years, there are a lot of potential for utilizing these microbial resources for the production of these kind of chemicals by industries. So with this, I would like to conclude my talk here. And once again, I thank the organizers and Professor Praveen for inviting me. And I also thank Professor Ashok Pandey, my mentor. And I also thank my students, Dr. Vivek, Mr. Rajesh and Godan, who are involved in this work. I thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Dear participants, if you have any queries, you can ask some 1 or 2 questions, if there is any. Okay, maybe there is no questions. The presentation is very clear.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. This is Mukesh from Whale Tech University. It's very nice presentation, Dr. Binod, sir. It's very interesting too. The organism which you were talking about was like lactobacillus, right? I just want to know which pathway you used for 1,3-PDO, like it's glycerol reductive pathway.
This is a reductive pathway. Actually, there's a conversion of glycerol to 1,3-propanediol is a reductive pathway, and lactic acid production is an oxidative pathway.
Okay, sir. How about coenzyme B12 production? So, is it a natural producer or have you added externally?
Which one? No, this is a natural producer.
So there are no people added.
Not added.
ADH balance.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Some disturbance came in between. Yeah.
NADH will be needed for both the production of 1,3-PDO.
No. Actually, this organism is no need of adding any NADH into the media. So this organism will actually take care of all these things, because what we are doing is we just and we make a anaerobic condition. Especially, actually, what we are doing is we sparging nitrogen in the media. So initially, first 24 hours we sparge nitrogen, and then organism will take care by itself and we convert 1,3-propanediol into this glycerol into 1,3-propanediol. So there is no need of adding any reductive sources into the media.
Okay, for oxidative pathway, which carbon source? Same glycerol is used for both reductive and oxidative.
No, this actually we are adding glucose also.
Okay.
Glucose is also glucose and glycerol. These are the two carbon sources which we are adding in the media.
So lactate production is from glucose.
Yes.
So can you comment on the final question? How about the yield about glycerol? It's only 0.7. So
No, actually, that is the theoretical maximum is actually 0.72 gram per gram.
okay.
So we are almost getting utilizing almost 95% of glycerol is actually utilizing and converting, because this glycerol is not utilized by the organism for the metabolic process. So they are using this for the generating the reductive sources. So almost 99%, 95% glycerol utilization is happening.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
nice presentation as well as the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mukesh. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Binod sir, for being with us. Actually, we had given you the invitation in a short notice. Thank you for joining with us in the short notice, sir. And I look forward to future ventures between research collaboration, some other collaboration with us. Participants, if you have any queries and if you want to tell anything with Dr. Binod, you can write to me so that I will convey to Dr. Binod. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye.
So,
Bye.
dear participants, and we are having sessions, parallel sessions. We are having the parallel session 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. Participants can join in the individual sessions right now using the link provided to you earlier through the session schedules. In the PDF file, there is a link for session 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. So participants can go to that session and you can present your paper there. I request all the participants to stick on to the time limit. Your time limit for presentation is 8 minutes, and 2 minutes is allocated for question and answers. So totally there is 10 minutes for a presentation. Please stick on to the time because we are running short of time. Thank you. Thank you for joining this inaugural function. Thank you everybody for making this inaugural function and this first session invited lecture a grand success. Thank you all. We'll meet you again in the common session in the YouTube link by 2 to 2:30 p.m. for the invited lecture by Dr. Sunita Varjani. Thank you.